Before there was history, before cities, kings, war, or grief, there was a silence so complete it could swallow the mind. And in that silence, the world stood finished. The heavens were set in place. The earth was whole. Every stretch of sky, every depth of land, every living system had been brought into being exactly as it was meant to be. Nothing was missing. Nothing was unfinished. The work of creation had reached its end, and on the seventh day, God stopped. Not because he was weary, not because power had run dry. He stopped because the work was complete. He rested over a finished world, and in that rest, he set the day apart. He blessed it, marked it as holy. A day forever tied to the moment creation stood still beneath the hand of its maker. This is how it began. Not as rumor, not as myth passed from one generation to the next. This is the account of the heavens and the earth when they were first made, when the Lord God formed the world into something alive. At that time, the earth did not yet look the way we imagine it. No wild brush had broken through the soil. No crops had risen from the ground. Rain had not fallen. The land waited in silence, untouched by human hands, because there was no man yet to work the earth. And still, the ground was not abandoned. Water rose from beneath it, streams pushing up from the deep, spreading across the surface and soaking the land as if creation itself was breathing for the first time. Then came the moment everything changed. From the dust of the ground, the Lord God formed a man, not from gold, not from fire, from dust, common earth, the same ground beneath every footstep. And yet, that lifeless form did not remain lifeless for long. God bent close and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and in an instant, dust became flesh. Flesh became a living soul. The first man opened his eyes in a world made by God and filled with the breath of God himself. Then the Lord planted a garden in the east, in Eden. This was not wilderness. This was design, a place prepared with intention, beauty and order rising out of the earth at the command of its creator. And there, in that garden, God placed the man he had formed. Trees rose from the ground in every direction, beautiful to look at and rich with food. Nothing in Eden was careless. Nothing was harsh. It was a place of abundance where the eye found beauty and the body found provision. But at the center of it all stood two trees, unlike the rest, the tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. From Eden, a river flowed, watering the garden, carrying life through it. Beyond the garden, that river divided into 4 headwaters, each one branching out into lands that would one day carry their own names and histories. The first was the Pishon, winding through the whole land of Havilah, a place known for its gold. And that gold was said to be good. Precious resin was there too, and onyx stone pulled from the earth like hidden treasure. The second river was the Gihon, flowing through the entire land of Cush. The third was the Tigris, running east of Ashur. And the fourth was the Euphrates. The world was wide, but Eden stood at its center like a heartbeat. And there in that garden, the Lord God gave the man his place. He was not made to drift. He was not created without purpose. God put him in Eden to work it and to keep it. Even in a world untouched by sin, man was given responsibility, meaning stewardship. Life was not empty ease. It was sacred duty. Then came the command. God told the man he was free to eat from any tree in the garden. Freedom was the first gift. The garden was open to him. Its beauty, its food, its peace, all of it laid before him, without fear, without lack. But one tree was forbidden, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and the warning was clear. The day he ate from it, death would enter the story. It was the first boundary ever spoken, the first line drawn by God between trust and rebellion. In a perfect world, one command stood like a shadow at the edge of the light. Then the Lord God said something that cut through the silence of paradise. It is not good for the man to be alone. That phrase matters. In a creation repeatedly declared good, something now stood incomplete. The man had life. He had purpose. He had a home shaped by God's own hand. But he was alone. So God declared that he would make a helper suitable for him. Not a lesser being, not an afterthought. Someone fit for him. Someone who answered the loneliness of the first man with shared life. Before that happened, the Lord God brought the creatures of the earth before him. From the ground he had formed the beasts of the field and the birds of the air, and one by one they were brought to the man. He watched them, studied them, named them. Whatever he called each living creature, that became its name. It was an act of authority, but maybe also of revelation. Pair after pair passed before him. Life in every form, motion, sound, instinct, design. And through all of it, one truth became impossible to ignore. For every creature, there was a counterpart. But for the man, no suitable helper was found. So God moved in a different way. He caused the man to fall into a deep sleep, not the rest of the seventh day. Something heavier, a silence that took him completely. And while the man slept, the Lord took one of his ribs and closed the place with flesh. Then, with deliberate care, God made a woman from what he had taken out of the man. She was not pulled from the dust the same way he was. She was formed from his side, near his heart, made from what had already been made alive by the breath of God. And then God brought her to him. The first meeting in human history happened under the gaze of the Creator. And when the man saw her, words came out of him like recognition deeper than thought. At last, bone of my bones, flesh of my flesh. She would be called woman because she was taken out of man. This was not just naming, it was revelation. He knew immediately that she was not like the animals. Not another creature to observe, not another life to govern from a distance. She belonged with him. She matched him in a way nothing else in creation ever had. And from that moment came a truth that would reach far beyond Eden. A man would leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the two would become one flesh. Not merely side by side, not simply bound by convenience. One flesh, one union, one life, joined before God. At the end of it all, before shame ever entered the world, before fear taught humanity to hide, the man and his wife stood together in complete innocence. They were naked and they felt no shame. No guilt, no suspicion, no fracture between them, no fracture between themselves and God. Just openness, just trust, just peace. For one brief moment, the world was exactly what it was meant to be.